Good afternoon. Welcome to Tangled Rights. I'm your co-host, Justin W. Wilson, still Esquire. We've got
Shane D. Cox, as always, Esquire.
still.
We got episode Lucky 13.
Is it 13?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We also have a guest today, pretty esteemed guest. Introduce yourself, please.
Rachel Larsen, taught for 8 years, have 4 kids,
Taught. What did you teach?
4th, 5th, and 1st grade,
Where did you go to school?
BYU, Idaho.
Elementary ed?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you do elementary ed, is it just like anything from K to 6 you could teach?
K to 8.
K to 8.
K to 8, and then I do have
It doesn't, like middle school isn't split off?
technically no.
Okay.
I guess it is K to 6, and then I have a special thing that I can teach math in 6, 7, 8 if I wanted to.
So
And
that means you
technically,
probably know how to add pretty good.
just a little bit.
What's-
I took calculus in high school.
What's
That was,
37
my
plus
favorite.
41?
37, 41, 70.
Took you a long time.
I know it does.
gosh.
It's crazy.
Why are we doing this?
I don't know.
My mental math, not as good as I could sit down and work out a problem on a
for
whole
sure.
page and love it.
I couldn't do like you could put a gun to my head and tell me I have all day, but I can't get up until I get it done, and I couldn't do calculus. So,
Love it.
All right.
So cool.
Cool. Good start. Rachel's with us today because we made a mention on our podcast last week that we had a trial that we went and watched. Rachel happened to be one of the jurors on a recent trial that ended just on Friday. Today's Monday when we're recording. So this is very recent. It was a week-long trial, and kind of the biggest charge was aggravated stalking, although there was some other stuff in there too. So she's a normal person, a lay person, as we'd say in the business, and she was just a normal juror on this case deciding something about this man's life. So we're going to take a deeper dive into kind of the look behind the scenes of a trial. You'd never sat through a trial before, I guess, right, Rachel?
I've just walked in for a few minutes of my uncle's trials, but never for the whole thing.
Okay, and your uncle was a judge in California, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So overall, how was the experience? Did you like being on a jury?
Loved it.
Okay.
liked everything.
Did you think you were going to love it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I went in going yes, this is it. So excited. I hope they choose me. They probably won't choose me. And that's a real big bummer, but
but then they ended up choosing you.
they did.
Do you recall? Okay, so
Okay.
I'm going to break this down. It was 5 full days, right?
Would you count the jury selection as part
Yes.
of that? Okay.
Yeah.
Then yes.
So when you say full days, I know that some of them you started a little bit later, like 11:30 or whatever, but you never started afternoon, did you?
No.
Okay, so it was always at some point in the morning,
10:30 to 11.
all the way to 5 or 6.
The last day.
5
even
every day
later.
except the last day was just almost 8:30 or so or something.
How many days of jury selection were there?
2.
All right. So I want you to walk me through the process that you went through from when you show up to the courtroom with your summons until you actually find your courtroom. Like, what happens?
Okay. So went upstairs. There's a long line kind of out there. Talked to the person in front of me. Not super friendly. I'm like, oh, I didn't even bring my jury summons. He's like, you're really supposed to bring that. I'm like, okay, cool. So they finally let us in at 10, and we go in. She reprinted a jury summons for me. They, I don't know, do all that stuff. We take a seat. Everyone's as far away as possible in this big room because they had a jury summons at 8, one at 10, and one at noon. So mine was at 8 or at 10. So we get in. We're sitting there. They put on the video for us, the orientation video, and then the lady comes out, does this whole spiel that I'm sure she wishes was also a video because she just want to say the same thing every time. And then she gets to the end and she's like, so I hate to do this, but they need a break. So we're just going to be long lunch. So be back at 12:30.
And this is on Monday.
This is on Monday.
Okay.
So we haven't even come in or anything like that. So then we had a 2-hour break, ate lunch, came back, and they're like, but come and sit in the side room. So everyone's sitting in the side room. There's nowhere to sit really. Everyone's awkwardly quiet and everything. And then they finally come in and say, we're going to call your name, and then we're going to put you in line. And so they called all the names. I was number 17. And then there was, I think, 50 of us.
Did they do it alphabetically?
No.
So it's just random numbers? Okay.
Yes. I mean, my thoughts are that they had kind of what they wanted based off of our questionnaire that we'd answered already. And they kind of pulled from that first. And then, because I had tried to get out of jury duty not that I actually wanted to be part of it, but there's an option of if you have kids and if you're the sole caregiver, you could sign up for something. So I did that. I sent a letter in, and they're like, no.
We don't care.
Yeah, no problem.
Because you take care of your 4 children.
Yes.
Primarily throughout the day.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So she gives her spiel. You get lined up. Then what?
Then we walk up to the courtroom. It's like everyone has to stay in line. Remember who you're in front of. This is like kindergarten. You need to stay in one straight line. We're going to go. We're going to take 10 at a time into the elevators.
Did anybody screw it up?
Not that I remember anyone
shocking.
saying. I know, it was. But we only had to walk like 20 feet until they stopped us and took 10 at a time up.
And then probably like kept you in line.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then we got up there and we got to the 5th floor. They lined us all up, and then we came into the thing. But like the marshal was really good. She was very, like, I like her because she's like on top of things, but also has a really good like sense of humor. But she's like, you need to follow me. You can't, like, she's just very much like, it definitely
Like she
felt
was talking to 5-year-olds?
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of those people really needed it. So, but we walk in and they're like, okay, we're going to sit in order. Like, do not get out of order. So she sits us all down. There's 24 more comfortable seats in the front. And then when she gets us all in, she gets the other people in. And like one of the ladies had like a walker thing to help her in. And so they put her out of line. They're like, well, we need to take note of that, make sure that we know where she is.
Right.
And yeah, and then so I was 17, so I was in the box from the beginning.
Okay. So
And you guys had a weird box. It wasn't a real box.
No,
it was a makeshift just
Yeah.
chairs. When all the other courtrooms have an actual box, so
I was expecting there to be something in front of me.
there normally is in
And-
all the other
Yeah.
courtrooms. Yeah,
They said it was one of the smallest of
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they call it a jury box for that reason because it's
yeah, boxed in,
boxes.
right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so you get sat, and then how long? What happened next? I guess.
So then they start going through just like regular questions of, does anyone have anything coming up like that you can't do jury duty? People are shouting out their different things, saying,
Right, like if you booked a flight or
yes,
something like that.
but some of the people are being really good. They're like, I have a flight booked tonight, but if you really need me, I can reschedule it and it'll just make next week harder, but like I'll do it. And then other people are like, I cannot work. I'm not going to make any money. You shouldn't have me here. And so it's just like this going back and forth. Yeah. A lot of people were really good and some people were not as much. One of the guys, not as much. You could tell he's just doing everything he could to get out of it. And he's like, I'm not making money. I shouldn't be here. I tried to get out. And the judge did not like that. So she kind of went off on him a few times. But then, like, she's like, okay, you have to be here. This is your civic duty. Like, this is part of what you signed up, like being a citizen and all this stuff.
We signed up for that?
Yeah, crazy, huh?
You didn't sign up by anything other than being born here.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's a good thing to do. I've been called once, and it was when I was moving. So I was actually going to be out of it was the next week, and I was literally leaving on a Friday. So I called them and was like, yo, I'm not going to be here. And they excused me.
And they make the judge be the bad person there instead of either of the attorneys, so you
Correct.
don't have a bad feeling about
You can just be
either
mad
of
at the
attorneys.
judge.
Yeah.
Was anybody mad at the judge?
Oh, so this guy, she kind of starts on her different, because she's going through the different things of like, well, this can get you out, this can get you out. And he raises his hand and he's like, I can't, like it would create a financial hardship. She goes, I'm not there yet. When I get to that question, I'll come back to you. So then she starts going through it again. He's like, I can't be here. It's a financial. She goes, you need to stop talking. Give him a mic. She's like, you need to have a microphone. Give him a microphone. He gets a microphone. He's like, I can't be here. Blah, 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 blah. Just keeps going on and on. Everyone else in the room is super irritated by him. She's like, oh, like, you cannot. And then that's when she really railed him, just for like a good 5 minutes of this is a civic duty, like really went off. And he was like, oh, yeah, sure.
You found out quick, this judge, no nonsense.
Oh, yeah.
Because
And,
not
like,
all the judges are like that. Not all
Yeah.
of them.
I mean, every judge
Some
is-
of them are a little more timid.
Different personalities,
Yeah.
you know.
No, she was definitely, and it was to the point where he kept kind of like talking at her that the marshal was coming up close to him, and that's kind of when he backed up a
Yeah,
little
'cause
more
it's-
and listened to it.
The judge has an enforcement mechanism that carries a gun and has a badge.
Yeah, and a
And we had
taser.
2 the first day. I don't know if he was like training.
Two marshals?
The guy, yeah. So they kind of were both of them.
Sure.
And they have different layers too, because there's a judge and a.
Thank you. Sorry.
Spooked her.
She's afraid of everything we learned. So how long did the judges process take
Oh, I don't know.
before the general questions were out of the way?
A while, maybe an hour. I'm not really good at time, but it felt like a while.
I think you said it continued through Tuesday as well, right?
But it wasn't the judges portion
Okay.
that continued through Tuesday. So it's like, so we got through her stuff and then we started on the state's questions. So then so once we got through her stuff, she excused us. We had a 10-minute recess or whatever, and that's when they kicked out a couple people. Like one guy in the back.
Just murdered him. Sorry, no jury
I've never
for you.
seen him before again. So I you can only assume.
Could be dead, maybe. I doubt it. Possible though.
So one of the guys, like, he couldn't even sit down because he was getting back surgery soon and stuff. So they released him. They released the guy that had really bad PTSD. Like, he was like shaking when he was talking to her, that he felt like he couldn't be there.
Because he was like had some issues with being in public.
Yeah, because of military service.
Sure.
And so they released him.
So it sounds like excluding things that everybody's going to have, like everybody has to make money and everybody has
Yes.
daily obligations. The court was reasonable when it came to
Oh, yeah.
accommodating people with special
I thought
issues.
they were really good about it. Like, when I saw the people, like one of the ladies, she's like, I just don't understand English. Like, I don't know anything you're saying. And they were good with her and let her go. So then, because there was 5 spots, they had to like fill those all with people from the gallery. Is it gallery or galley?
It's gallery, but they call it a veneer. So the pile of people is a jury veneer that turns into a impaneled jury.
Okay.
Right. So and then you just have your 24 in the front or however many. And then when you pull some out, you literally just go like, if it's 1 through 50 and you pull out 6, 11, whatever, you'll have the next people just
Oh,
fill
yeah.
in.
We didn't move our spots ever. So they just like 2 and 3 left. So they put 2 and 3, like filled those spots.
Yep.
So then we had the other people. So then they had to go through all the questions again. And then once we had this group, then they had a list of questions front and back that we had to answer. And then they're like, it's so hard being a teacher and like watching these people like not follow directions. Cause it's like, I taught my first graders how to restate a question and their answer. And these adults can't do it. They're like, how long have you lived? Like, she's like, you don't have to read the questions, but you can't just say yes or no because we don't have a list of the questions. And so they're either because the first question is, how long have you lived in Clark County? And
Yes.
people are like, 15 months. They keep going. She goes, you have to like restate
Right.
the question. And then they're just reading the whole list of questions. It's like, oh my gosh, how did no one learn how to do this? It was frustrating, but it's fine.
You got through it.
Yes.
And then let's get to when the state started their questions.
Okay. So they're just asking, I don't know, some of them were just, I didn't understand, like, what are your hobbies? What's important to you? And then we went through, listed all the questions. It was just very matter of fact, just a bunch of random questions that we answered. And
How long did the state's process take?
we didn't finish it, I don't think, the first day.
Okay. So this gets you into the second day. All right.
And then they, so that one guy that like really wanted to go out, so they didn't let him go. But we all kind of were like, yeah, like I talked to the other jurors.
Was he ultimately in the jury?
No, he didn't get, but we were like, yeah, she should be spiteful and keep him until the very end just because he's so,
Because he was annoying?
Yeah, he's so annoying. But then also his interruptions and things he was saying, like anything he could do, it was like, could you convict someone on this? I don't think I could. I don't think I could convict someone. I don't think I could convict anyone of doing anything. And
He was just
talking
saying
and-
whatever
Yeah,
he needed
saying
to.
whatever he
Yes.
needs to not to do
And
that.
like another girl in the back, they were asking her questions, and apparently I didn't talk to her, but I talked to other people because she would be like, they were like, what's your hobby? And she was like, oh, like looking up things about world peace. And he's like, so your hobby is world peace? She's like, yes. And like, they're like, where do you look at your news? And she's like, El Salvador. And they're like, you look at your news from El Salvador? And she's like, yeah, I came from El Salvador to America. And they're like, okay. And he like moved on. And later I talked to another juror, and she said that she was just messing him with him. She just didn't want to do it. I'm like, okay.
My hobby is world peace. Where do you get your news? Al Jazeera. Okay, so when this was all going on, did you have anybody get struck for cause? What that means
That you
is
know of.
they'll say something wild, and then maybe the attorneys will go up to the judge and they'll have a little conference, and they'll come back, and then that person will be excused. Kind of like your dude saying, I can't convict anybody of anything.
Yeah.
He's guilty. He's sitting right there. He must have done it. Somebody like that.
If they did, I wasn't paying attention.
Okay.
Because then
Because they just would they would just send us out to recess, and I didn't really know why.
Okay. Somebody's just gone. Somebody else
Yeah,
got killed.
kind of. Yeah. It was like they would just like leave, and you're like, okay.
They're gone forever.
Yeah.
They put them in the dungeon. The Sarlacc ate them.
When I was like drinking a lot of water to keep myself awake. And so like I just was just chugging it. So I would walk out and I'd go straight to the bathroom. And so they'd call people.
You missed
kind
the
of
walk
out.
of shame.
Yeah, I missed a lot of those.
Okay. So, and then you get to the defense attorneys. What happened there?
I don't think he liked me from the beginning. I don't know. So I had to say, like, they asked, you to know anyone in the DA? So I was like, yes, I have like a friend who works in the DA, Rob Stevens. And so later, the second day, he kind of gets up and he's like, oh, yeah, I talked to Rob Stevens about you. Like, I know. So, and I'm like, what?
You know what?
Yeah, exactly. Like, why are you calling me out? I hate this. And then, like, I just answered the questions that they had asked, right? Like, she said in the beginning, don't not answer a question because it's asked in a way that makes it so that you probably wouldn't have to. Like, answer all the questions. So I'm answering every question I have to. Like, anything that they bring up, I'm trying to say something because
You're following instructions.
yeah, I don't want to get in trouble, Like, I saw her yell at him. I don't need it. Like, does ick. But, so then later, so he's kind of, I liked it later, but in the beginning it was irritating. He's trying to make it so that he made sure that the jury knew why they were there. Like, what is this? Why do we have this? What are we looking for? And so at one point I raised my hand to answer the question too, and he was like, oh, Miss Larsen, big surprise. I'm like, ew.
Do you feel that alienated you at all? Like you didn't like him and you did. And what I mean by this is like, because you always, as an attorney, you want to make sure you're pretty neutral, right? If anything, you want them to like you, but you definitely don't want to irk any juror. So my personality is going to get muted. I'm going to be a completely different person in a jury room because,
Good.
right? Because I don't want them all to hate me like most people do.
have to pretend to be someone else momentarily.
I just have to turn on my good behavior.
Yeah.
Turn down the white trash a little bit.
Okay.
No big, well, a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, so do you find that did anything for you from the outset? Like if you'd been asked at that moment, once you were irked by him, to cast judgment, what would you say? No, I don't like that guy, so screw his client. Kind of thing.
No, I just can't put it on like, it's not his fault. He is a terrible lawyer. I didn't like him. When he said that and called me out, I was like, ew, yuck. And when he called out that he knew Rob that he said it, and I was like, I texted Rob and later talked to him, and he's like, I couldn't respond because I didn't know if you were in trial. Like, I couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
But that irritated me. And then the fact that he called me out, I didn't like it.
Okay. But other than that, fine questions.
Yeah, it was
nothing.
fine. I mean,
Okay.
just a lot of like, oh, what do you think of this? And then he asked questions like, has anyone ever had any heartbreak? Has anyone done anything dumb because they've been heartbroken? So it's kind of like, so then I'm creating my own mental thought
Yeah.
about what is this case? Oh, he probably did something dumb to his wife. Like, that makes sense.
Sure.
And so, yeah, so it was just kind of questions like this.
Did the DA do that?
No. Nothing that led to
Tactical decision, but
Maybe they just liked their evidence, so they didn't think they had to prime anything.
yeah, the way that I was taught and the way that I do it is I always kind of try to weave my case theory into my questions. So I'm advocating before I'm advocating,
Yeah.
right? Obviously not doing it directly, but I want to
Yeah.
educate the jury on what the case is about
Yeah.
because I want the
Not-
right jury.
Yeah, not hardly anything from them. A lot of questions that to me felt like they didn't connect. Something I thought was interesting is they went later and like some of the defense was he was drunk, and I thought it was interesting they didn't ask us any of our alcohol consumption because I've never had alcohol, and my buddy Juan had never had alcohol either. Like, he didn't ever drink, and so I thought that was interesting that they didn't try to get any sort of knowledge of where we were in that
Did you
sense.
judge the defendant because he drank alcohol?
No, but like my Juan, he was like, I'll never take someone's defense as they were drunk. He goes, that will never work for me. So I thought that, anyways, I was
They should have got into that. They
Yeah.
didn't. Yeah. I mean, if you're the defense attorney and you know that's something you're going to bring up, you definitely need to talk about it.
Yeah.
Which it's difficult, right? Because in the moment, you got to do one of two things. You either have to do your homework and write out your voir dire questions in depth, at least in a really good outline, and stick to the structure of the outline, or you have to make sure you remember everything and really dive into it. But that's difficult sometimes.
Yeah.
Did you think it was just so weird you couldn't hear any of the evidence before answering like questions how you felt about things? Because I've had jurors be like, I just want to get to the evidence. Like, stop asking me questions. I don't know how I'm going to feel till you tell me.
No, I didn't. I thought, I get it. Like they're trying to choose a group that whatever works for them. So like it didn't bother me. And I figure, you're going to, like my aunt had been in a jury that dealt with child molestation, and they like kind of went into it and asked all their experiences and everything like that. So when they didn't ask anything like that, I just assumed it wasn't anything too bad, kind of as my thoughts.
So you made the jury, though. Do you believe that the jury was impartial? Or do you think that anybody snuck through that was swayed one direction or the other?
I thought someone had snuck through that was swayed. But I mean, she told him that her daughter had been stalked, that her daughter was a public figure. And
how did she make the jury then?
yeah. And so, and she,
Who
I
are
mean,
the
she
other
said
five?
it wouldn't make
Yeah,
her
right. Well, the other two, 'cause
impartial.
obviously the prosecution wants to keep that person.
Yeah.
The defense wants her out. That's not my number one pick.
Yeah. And she was the very last one to be brought in, like the very last one to be questioned. Like the worst thing I think about the second day is how redundant it was, because anyone that they had to bring, because they were way
They have to
faster
go
at kicking
over
people out,
everything, yeah.
every single question. So, and then just things that just irritate me, like they would bring that little, whatever you call it, they put stuff on that they stand in front of them, like
Podium?
the podium. So the defense wanted, or the state wanted it right next to their desk, but the defense wanted it in front. And so they would ask people questions that they would be up here because they were on this person. Then they'd move it back here. And then when the defense would talk, he would take it and bring it up here. And then he would go back. And it was like, oh my gosh. And they would like send us out for a recess, and it would be up, and then it would be back to the defense. I'm like, why didn't you do that when we were outside? Like, it's just 30 seconds.
Little things.
Yeah.
Did you love how many breaks there were? Were you so surprised? I think that's the number one thing people are surprised by. It's like there are so many breaks, attorneys going up to the judge and just talking about other things, and you're like, what are we doing?
Yeah. And like when I first heard the white noise, I was like, oh, they must have hit a button on accident. And then when they said it again, I'm like, oh, okay, this is on purpose.
So you can't hear it.
Yeah. But then I think the marshal also, she would come and like talk to us. I think she was also trying to do a little bit of, because we were, I mean, it's so small.
You're
and we
right
were
there.
3 rows
Yeah.
up. And so she would talk to us a little bit.
So
But,
I want
yeah.
to dive into that impartial lady a little bit more. The partial lady, what made you think that she, I mean, obviously she said that, but did she, when you were doing your deliberations or discussing the case at the end, did it come out that, hey, screw this guy?
So she went through and like, so she was our foreperson. She is like the chairperson of her company, and so it felt like she would be a good person to handle it all. But at one point, she was like, "I mean, I have no like feelings about this, but
I do.
let me tell you the whole story of my daughter being stalked and all this." So I kind of thought, because her daughter was, and she had even said this in the bathroom, that her daughter had been real stalked, that she would not have been, that she kind of would have been more, but she was for aggravated stalking. She did not want to drop that.
Did they ask in the deliberation at the end? She wanted to. Okay, she wanted to find him guilty for that. Okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
All right, let's do this chronologically. So let's
Okay.
go into the trial. So
Okay.
just, I guess, free flow. Tell us what you saw, what you thought.
All right. So then we got opening statements on Wednesday. So that, yeah, like the jury had been completely decided like at 5 on Tuesday. They called us all in and gave us all our spots.
What number were you?
10.
Okay.
So, but I was like stressed because we were like, it could be the last, but it could be just random. So I was stressed about being an alternate because I didn't want to sit through it all and then
And not decide.
not decide. And then
I just want to be part of it.
yeah, totally. Like I just wanted to, I wanted my voice heard. But so then anyway, so we got all this stuff. And one of the ladies I was really surprised stayed. She was hard of hearing, so they had to put the microphone and stuff
Hearing
on.
assistance?
Yes. And she was like, I don't know, I can't hear. So anyway, next day we have opening statements, very short. So the defense is like, it was the lady, found out later, it was like one of her second or third ever standing in front of trial talking to people. She did really good. from the state, and she just kind of, we want you to find him guilty. And then the defense got up, and he was like, well, he just had a bad night. He had 12 Modelo's in 3 hours, and he sent a few emails, and like, haven't you guys ever done anything that you regret? And like, I want you to not find him guilty and stuff like that. But through all that, we learned that it was the attorney that he was being charged of stalking. And that was like a twist. And like, did not expect that. I was like, for sure, it's going to be the wife. But then it was the attorney that was surprising. Anyway, so this opening statements are really short. And so they sent us to lunch and then called back the lady that couldn't hear. And she left. And so they're down to 13 instead of 14.
We heard she said she had trouble understanding English too. Didn't quite have a grasp on the English language as well as she should have. But they don't use legal phrases with the jury. It's more just, hey, these are facts.
Mm-hmm.
You guys aren't determining all of the legal stuff, just factually. But it sounded like she didn't want to be on the jury either.
Well, she had been kidnapped by an ex-boyfriend.
What?
And taken into the house and held for over 3 hours while she tried to get out. And as she said, she literally escaped by the skin of her back.
Wow.
So I was surprised that she was on it.
Wow.
There's a lot of trauma on the jurors that were in the whole thing and the ones that actually ended up staying.
Wow.
It was...
So when she says by the skin of her back, does that mean she got like hurt when she was trying to get out?
I assumed, but I don't know.
Okay. So openings, and then I want to know your perception of the witness, the victim. I'm assuming she was first, right?
Yes, she was first.
We were there.
You weren't there in the beginning
No.
because you guys went and watched the murder trial.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We were there during some of her testimony.
Yeah.
right?
She came back.
She
No, we were there in the.
Yeah, you got a
initial
little
part.
bit
You
of
got
it.
the end of it. Okay, but
Yeah.
I want to know what your perception of her.
She came in and she was talking. It just felt very calculated and very smug. Like, she knew what she was talking about, and every single thing she said was she had already practiced it, and she knew exactly what she was going to say and how it was going to sound. It's hard because she was a lawyer, the defendant was a lawyer, and then we're dealing with lawyers. So it's just a lot of lawyers in there.
Did that make
Or
you sick
detectives.
to be around that many lawyers?
No, it did feel like a bad joke, though. Something was coming up.
Okay, so but smug, over practiced, anything else?
Yeah, I don't know.
Did that make you trust her less?
A little bit. It just some of the things she was saying, it just felt like, so one of the biggest terms I think I heard 45 times or so was that he said in his email, because the whole thing, right, is he sent a few emails.
Threatening emails.
Threatening emails to her. She felt scared. She sent him a cease and desist. He sent another email. She ordered a TPO, a temporary protective order. When that came out, she sent did the extended protective order. He got served in court by someone, and that's kind of where we are right now. Then he got served, he sent a letter later to her, and it was to her. And so he was in
A
violation.
physical letter, like in the mail.
Yes.
Okay.
And so he was in violation of aggravated stalking and violating an EPO.
He was accused of aggravated.
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Legal.
Those are the charges that were thrown
Yes.
against him.
Those were the
So
charges.
it's count 1 and count 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, so she gets up, and one of the things he had said was he was going to nail her to a tree, Indian country style. And boy, have I never heard that. Ever, but also never as much. And so they have to go through her background and how does she know? How did she know what that was? Well, she took a history class, and in her history class, they talked about it. Well, how do you know that it from taking it so long ago? And she's like, well, something like that just sticks out to you. And it's kind of like, you definitely looked it up. Like, you definitely looked that up when you saw it. It probably rang a little bit of a bell.
What does nailing someone to a tree, Indian country style
So
mean?
we got two different two different things. I haven't actually looked it up since, but what they said was that you cut off the tongue, you cut off the right ear, you gouge out their eyes, you cut open their intestines, or cut out the stomach, pull out their intestines, nail it to the tree while they have to walk around the tree to disembowel themselves. But she said something about actually nailing their hand to the tree, but that didn't make any sense how you could walk around the tree and disembowel yourself if your hand is nailed to it. But it's like anyway, it was a little muddled between the two people that talked about the Indian country style.
So I just Googled that, and
Yeah.
it did not pull up anything about that.
Interesting. Yeah. It was brought up by the state over and over and over and over.
That seemed to
again.
be a big part of the case because his threat to her, and I guess to rewind and make sure, I think last week we mentioned it, he was getting divorced, and so this is his ex-wife's attorney in the
Yes.
divorce case. So
And the divorce has already happened at this point.
the divorce is finalized.
And they're just doing the last minute. This is an important part, the A-B list. What he wants, what she wants, making the list, and then selling the house and finding a realtor to do it.
And I would guess the defense hammered on the fact that divorces are very contentious and
Yes.
a lot of angry feelings come out, and he's representing himself as an attorney. Any person can represent themselves, but he might have an idea that he knows what he's doing as an attorney.
Yes. Even though he stopped practicing law in 99.
Okay. One of the things that came out in part of the testimony I wanted to ask about is the defense attorney tried to ask a question saying that there was a recent lawyer-on-lawyer crime
Okay.
referencing a shooting here in Las Vegas of an attorney shooting another attorney, but that question got shut down. Did you know what he was asking about?
No.
Okay.
No idea.
Okay.
Just know that it got shut down. I'm like, all right.
All right.
And when the judge
on.
told you to disregard, did you do that?
Yeah. I
Okay.
literally don't remember it until he said it.
Till right now.
Good for you.
Because they're talking about one of the elements is the victim. That girl has to have a reasonable apprehension of her safety, that
Yeah.
something is going to happen to her. And a part of this trial was he lived in Oklahoma at the time, Tulsa, Oklahoma. We'll cut
With
in.
his mom.
I got a shout out.
Shout
for
out
minor league-
918.
minor league baseball hat that I'll put on later with Austin. That's our new thing. Tulsa Drillers. I'll put it on later. Oh, thanks, Shane. Hey, it's Shane. This is a shout out, Tulsa, Oklahoma. As we were talking about, the Tulsa Drillers, who did a one-off, the Tulsa Raft Racers, because there's a big raft race that they used to do before COVID hit, and they're going to start it again soon. So they have this cool, crazy logo for a raft racer. Okay? This is my fitted of the week. Thanks. Back to you, Shane. Coming in the mail this week. He's all the way in Oklahoma, and she's in Las Vegas, and she didn't say that she thought he was around, right? She never testified to
She
that,
said,
did she?
I don't know where he is. I don't know where he's been. I don't know. And so she made it seem like she wasn't sure if he was in town.
Okay.
It's hard to, so it kept going on. Hard to believe that she didn't know that because 9 days after she serves him papers in Oklahoma. So how did you not know he was there if you're serving him papers there? And he had told them back in August or whatever when the divorce was finalized that if she needed to contact him, he'd be at his mom's house in Oklahoma.
In Oklahoma. Okay. So that becomes an important fact to distinguish between aggravated stalking and a lower of just regular stalking, right? And I'm sure in closing they explained to you kind of what we call them drop downs, where it could be just a lower crime.
No, they did not.
They didn't talk
They
about
did
lesser
not.
included?
No. They just it said that there was an option.
Right.
At some point, they kind of said that. Like the defense attorney said, basically in his closing, just don't get him for aggravated, but if you got him for stalking, I
Right.
get it.
Right. And the reason there, I can tell you tactically, obviously I haven't spoken to him about this, but my suspicion is he's trying to avoid his client having a felony. Right. And so he's hedging his bets that you're going to
At least
say,
2 felonies, right?
right. He's hedging his bets that the jury's going to say, hey, he's guilty of something. I'm not going to straight ask for an acquittal because his conduct was a bit odd. Right.
Yeah.
Sending somebody an email, drunk or not, threatening to kill them, not a good thing.
Yeah.
So he knows the jury's going to want some pound of flesh. Well, let's give him the misdemeanor
Yeah.
because then he's fine. No big deal.
And at the time, you don't know what charge equals what punishment, or
No.
the words felony or misdemeanor. They don't pop up, right?
No.
Okay.
Nothing.
Would it have changed your opinion knowing that both of the charges were felonies?
Maybe.
In what direction would it have changed it?
Maybe be less. I didn't try to be harsh or anything like that, but maybe even be less because it just felt a little ridiculous. Like the whole thing felt a little like crazy. Like it wouldn't have happened if she wasn't an attorney. Like if someone had sent.
I want you to expand on
'Kay.
that. What do you mean?
If someone had sent messages like that to me, right? As a teacher, someone sent like a nasty email, like a parent.
You think
sent
that they wouldn't protect a teacher the same way they protected the attorney?
I just wouldn't do anything about it. I would just go, whatever. So like, let's say I don't know. The whole thing, right, is she sends a cease and desist. The next email isn't threatening. It's just answering the questions she'd already asked about the AB list. So it's like, personally, no, I would never even have done the TPO or the EPO unless there was more than just an email. So like, if she hadn't been an attorney, none of this would have happened. Do you also think that, and I'm sorry to interrupt. No, you're fine.
But do you also think that the DA took the position they took and went as hard as they did because she's an attorney?
Yeah.
So not just her conduct would have been different as a non-attorney, but the DA probably also changed how they...
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit.
Did other jurors feel the same way?
Some of them, yeah.
And that didn't do anything to you guys?
Not really. It was hard.
He still did it, I guess.
Yeah,
Right. Well,
that's kind of where...
It sounds like you guys followed the instructions well.
We tried to. It was like we really tried to go through the law and do that. But to be fair, she did read like 26 instructions, and we didn't have a list in front of it. Like, I wish I could have read it while doing it and taken notes and stuff, but she's just reading it, and it just is going in.
But it got submitted to you afterwards.
Of course, yeah. We
But
definitely
at that
read
point,
that
you guys were
immediately.
ready to, yeah.
Did you? Okay.
If we had read it earlier, we would have had a verdict earlier.
So what?
Yeah.
What?
That's funny.
What were your key takeaways? Well, wait. So we got this first witness. Who else did the
So
state
then
have?
a detective came in. He's the one that went through the phone that was submitted to him. You could tell he was like, why am I here? I don't understand why you're doing this. I did my job. They give me the phone. I go through. I sent it to them. Like, we just take the phone. We put all the pictures in one place, all the messages in one place, and that's what I do. And they're like asking him questions. And he's just like, what? Why? Leave me alone. Let me out.
They have to confirm that, you
Yeah.
know, the crime
Yeah.
was committed.
And so they went through all of that, and then he left, and then a lawyer that served the EPO as a friend thing came up.
Came up twice.
Yeah. So he
Came
was
up a
recalled.
lot.
So even the first time he came up, he just was like, all right, Rachel Tigra is friends with someone Sisolak, and Sisolak works in my department. So they asked me, because I know Sisolak, but I don't know Rachel Tigra. Maybe we've gone to one thing that everyone was together at, but we don't know each other. I don't have her number. And you could just tell he's like, why did I do this? Like, I shouldn't have done this. This is the worst because I have to talk right now.
No good deed.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
He's a great guy. We really
Yeah, he's a
like-
good dude. I
We,
like
we
him a
had
lot.
no idea he was going to be in the case, but he is a public defender.
Yeah.
So
Special public
he's usually on the side of the criminal defendant, but in this case was just a neutral witness, but helped the prosecution.
Yeah.
In this instance,
I'm sure he
anyway.
loved that.
Yeah.
Okay, so other than him, any other witnesses?
And that was it for that day. They wanted to call their next witness, but then it was like 4:45, and they're like, it's gonna take a while.
Who was the next witness?
Yeah.
Detective McCrae.
Another
And is that the one that
detective.
actually...
That's the one that actually did all the detective work and booked him and all that stuff.
Okay. And one question.
Yeah.
So when you're talking to the guy that served the papers, and then you hear all the information about Sisolak,
Yeah.
the gal that worked with him, did you want to hear anything from her?
I didn't care. What I didn't like, it made me feel really icky, is that she was watching the whole trial, and she went and talked to Michael Harris
Who's
during
Michael Harris?
The defendant.
the defendant, because we as jurors were kind of talking about this lady who's sitting here knitting this whole time, and we're like, oh, I bet it's his daughter, because she keeps going over and talking to him. Then when I found out it's the friend, and I'm like, I wish I would have brought this up and like put it all together when we were in the jury deliberation, because like, if that's Rachel Tigert's friend, obviously he's not so dangerous that her friend can't go over and talk to him in the middle of a court.
When did she go talk? I didn't see that when
I
we
didn't
were
see her
there.
talk to
We
him,
were
no.
only there a couple days.
I did
but
see her go up to-
Juan talked about my buddy. He talked that he went over, like, that's why, because he was going to say something to her. I talked about knitting because he liked to knit.
Okay.
And didn't, because he didn't want to.
He didn't know who she was.
Yes, and he
for
thought
sure.
because she went over and talked to him that it was the thing, and she didn't
The
wanna get
thing that I
involved in
did see that I was really confused about, she went up to sidebar conferences.
She went to sidebar outside of the presence of the jury. When you guys weren't there, she went up to the stand and was on one of those sidebars. Because
Speaking to the judge.
Even-
and
even
with both the attorneys,
sometimes-
it was really weird.
even sometimes when the jury's not there, sometimes they'll do things just in open court outside of the presence of the jury. But even with the people there, they'll go and do a private conference too. So they had a private conference, and she went up there, and we don't know what it's about, but we're like
Yeah.
kind of confused about it. But
Yeah, because I can't just walk up to a sidebar conference. They tell me to pound
that's
sand.
that's not a public setting there. But she knows. I mean, the judge was very recently a prosecutor, so she must have had cases with her as
Maybe,
well, and knows the defense attorney knows the prosecutors too. They're around each other a lot. So I mean, this is just it was kind of a strange one.
Weird case.
It was. Well, and then apparently, I think the paralegal for the defense attorney.
She was up there a lot.
That was
She
that
went
gal
and
that was in the back.
Talked to Sisolak at some point, and Michael Harris's mom, who is a judge, took a picture of it, and a flash went off, and it became a huge deal.
They did that in front of you guys, huh?
No. I just heard about it
Okay.
afterwards.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, I talked to Austin about it, and he said that it was like a big deal.
Oh, big deal. They had to like delete the picture, delete the trash, go in through like
Why?
I don't know.
Who cares?
I don't understand.
Yeah.
It's
Anyway,
a public setting.
That whole family's weird, though. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Sending threatening emails and taking pictures of people in open court.
His mom was a judge before, though, huh? Wow.
Yes.
And so after the detective, who was next?
Then Michael Harris gets up. So, and the detective was very matter of fact. She was the one who also talked about what Indian country style was because she also took a history class in college.
Okay.
The detective.
So she gave
So
So that's
more.
why she took it more seriously.
I just
too.
find this slightly strange.
Just
I was
slightly.
born in Oklahoma, raised 5 miles north of the Oklahoma
and
border,
he was too. You know, he was just
and I
just
have
Indian
never,
country.
I have never heard of that.
yeah.
I don't know. I can't even find it on Google. So maybe it's some obscure thing. And we got a really good history teacher for high school and middle school. Like we learned a lot of stuff about, especially the local history, the Tulsa race riots, stuff like that. I thought we had really good teachers where I'm from, and I have never heard of that
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Apparently, it's not from a tribe. They went through a lot of the tribes and all this stuff, and so it's not from one of those tribes. Maybe it's Canadian or I don't know.
The
They kind of
only
went
thing that I
overall.
found a reference to it was some dudes in the Revolutionary War that were killed by the British and perhaps some of their Iroquois or Algonquin, allies, and
Yeah.
they tortured them that way. But it didn't even say what they did, so I couldn't
Yeah.
find anything about it just in a little Google search right now. But
Yeah.
anyway, all right. So they went through this. They apparently took the most obscure history class in college and
absolutely.
found out the wildest torture.
Enough that she knew exactly what it was, and she definitely didn't have to look it up at all.
And it terrified her.
And yeah, it made the detective even more fearful of the whole situation and take it more.
More serious.
Yeah, and then that's why she went and looked through his friend for any other Native American cultural references and found like an email. I don't know, some just like
war paint too,
yes,
right?
the
Something
war
about
paint.
war paint.
Yes,
Yeah. That was weird.
and so that he was ready to go to war and he'll paint his face for it.
Those are some. I mean, those emails are weird coming from an older white man. Like, who knows?
Is he white?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought he was white.
I think so.
He looked very white.
And that's what everyone's description of him and all the court documents are always white, 6 foot, 200 pounds.
Yeah. Okay, so then the guy gets on. What do you think of him?
Oh, he was wild. He
He's kind of a weird guy.
Talked and talked and talked. Reminded me a lot of someone I know who just like can't answer a yes or no question, and so because the defense does it first, right? When he
They
gets
give
up.
the direct
so yeah,
examination.
They
he-
can, I guess. They
Yeah,
could-
so he went through and
they should never put him up in the prosecution, but, but they can wait to have his testimony in the defense because
Yeah.
that's kind of a Fifth Amendment right there.
yeah. And he wanted. I talked to the lawyers afterwards. He really wanted to go up.
I think he had to.
Yeah, he had to. Absolutely.
Yeah,
There's
he had
no
to
way you
give
couldn't
his
put him on.
stuff. And so he had him like read the things. I think so. He was reading the emails to us, and at one point he like leaned back, held his eyes, and was like, "This is so much worse than I remember." And I think that was not super good for a lot of the jurors. That one got them. They brought that up a lot.
Got them in what way?
Felt like it
That
was
even
so bad.
he admitted that it was
It was
bad.
really bad. Yeah.
Right, but do you think that does anything to look at his culpability state, right?
Well, he was trying to paint himself as like a Christian guy, like very, very religious,
Right,
post, and so
But if
being
he didn't
embarrassed
intend
by that,
to, if he didn't intend to like to say, oh, I did something stupid, it's worse than I thought it was. Like, doesn't that take away some of the mens rea of what
he
you
has
were
some,
trying to do?
He has some ownership of it, I guess.
And to
But-
say, oh, this is worse than I thought. I would never have said something like that. I wouldn't intend to come off this way.
And they kind of went like, what, did you ever send like an apology or anything like that? And it's like, because his defense was kind of like that. He was on a 6-day bender and hadn't slept the whole time. And that he was just like drinking the whole time.
Yeah,
And
alcohol doesn't
so-
keep you up for 6 days. Something else does.
That's kind of what I was thinking. I'm like, I wonder if they're just not totally sharing all of the information of everything that's happening here.
No, Miller Lite will not keep you awake for 6 days, Austin. Meth Light will.
And so, so he goes through, he's talking. I mean, you read some of the emails, and the emails are interesting because a lot of the jurors thought that he was narcissistic and stuff. I kind of felt like maybe there's some other mental issues happening there, because if you read the emails, like the first one, his big issue is that Rachel Tiger is still charging his ex-wife, for all this, and she doesn't have enough money. And like that kind of was like a big thing that he's like, why are you doing this? But then in other emails, he kind of goes after his wife. And so I feel like there's a little mental things going on with that. Like,
Or maybe divorce is a messy thing.
Yeah,
Right? And
I
maybe
think
you're
so.
emotionally confused because you can love somebody and still be mad at them.
Yeah.
Right?
potentially.
Also,
There's something
did
going
he
on there.
did he file or did she file?
He filed. So that was another thing, is that in the opening statements, the defense attorney was like this is a thing he doesn't even want. It was just one night, and he sent all this, and then it comes out, well, he was the one who filed for divorce, and it was also not one night. It was over several days, and so.
Okay, so he testifies. What does that do for the jury?
I don't know. They kind of went back and forth. It's interesting hearing all their thoughts about it. Some people liked it because they liked hearing from him. Other people were like, well, I don't trust anything he said because this one thing doesn't really track.
Did the fact that he kept running from the prosecutor on cross-examination do anything for you guys?
They were like, he can't even remember something. And I was like, okay, listen, I can't remember something I said like 15 minutes ago, so I don't know if we can really hold him on that. Although, yes, of course, he is like, you can tell the defense is writing all the stuff that he's saying down, but he doesn't want to get hit. Like, he's an attorney. He's just running around. And so, yeah, they didn't like that so much, but I'm like, I get it.
Who did they find more credible, him or her?
So they didn't feel like she was credible in not knowing where he was. They thought she was lying about that. Okay. But then they didn't like that he wouldn't answer the questions, and they're like, there's no way he was drunk for 6 days. Like, there's just no way. We don't believe it. It's just not possible. No. Or that he didn't sleep for 6 days. So then they're kind of going back
Unless
and
he
forth.
was on methamphetamine.
And that's the thing I was thinking the whole time. I'm like, they wouldn't want to say that out loud, but in my head, maybe he was. Maybe he hadn't gotten any sleep, and maybe there was a lot of other things going on here.
And then, needless to say, they didn't believe him that he didn't receive the.
Oh yeah, so that was another thing. Is
protective
he
order.
was saying I never got the the EPO, so that's why I did it, and everyone's like,
Yeah, he did.
no, he did. He definitely did. And that was the thing, is like, we started when we got into the jury thing. We started with, let's go with a meteor item of this, when we could have easily done the other one first. But anyway, so then after Michael Harris, we ended with him, well, because I think we had gotten the cross, but not the recross, or
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they kept going back and forth.
yeah. So then they ended it on him, and then we came back and he started, but he didn't answer any of the defendant's questions. The defendant, or the state, made me so uncomfortable when he was going through this. He was so angry and just like irritated, and he kept cutting him off. Anytime he would try to speak, he's like, that was a yes or a no. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Like, trying to cut everything off. And like, I could feel, like, I mean, we're not that far, but it's like, I could feel his anger for the person, and it made me uncomfortable. Like, I wanted to leave the courtroom. I like just telling I don't remember who, but I was like, I want to take a shower, but like on the inside of my body. Like, it's so icky.
Just anger in general is probably an emotion you don't really like.
No, I
Okay.
don't. But like this specific, and I was like, maybe it's just like an attorney thing, but it just felt so personal. Like, just like, he's just so irritated by everything he said. And I was like, oh,
Too much aggression.
Did any
Yeah.
other jurors say anything about that?
if they were just like and then they just used expletives to explain him.
He's
To
an
explain
a-hole,
the,
and
the
it's
prosecutor?
To the state to talk about the state. Yeah, the state attorney.
Give me the letter that the expletives start with.
D.
D-I-C-K?
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, okay.
People can spell, bro. We're gonna have to, okay.
Oh, sorry.
like saying he's a
My
jerk.
bad. I
Yeah,
need you to
that,
spell it for me.
they thought also that he was.
But that didn't deter them from doing anything. That was
No, it
just,
didn't seem
Oh,
like
that's
it.
okay. He's a jerk. That's his job.
So that's
Yeah.
the interesting thing that you're telling us now is it sounds like there's a lot of things that as attorneys we think are going to be problems that could tank a case because the jury is just going to do whatever they want. But
Yeah.
you guys, it sounds like followed the instructions and did.
Yeah, I tried not
That's
to.
awesome.
It was kind of one of those weird things where like I liked the state attorney at first and didn't like the defense, and then by the end of it, I had completely switched, and I really liked the defense and the way that he tried to explain things to the jury and everything like that. Because like there was a question that we had asked to the first guy that was talking about how he got the phone because we wanted to know if it had been if he had gotten.
If he had gotten the passcode from him or...
Yes,
Yeah.
if it had been like a court order or not. And so when they came back, and so like, but they never really explained. He's like, I don't know. That's not my job. I just get it and I do what they ask me to. And so when we got back to Detective McRae, they had kind of ended and he like walked away almost like he was going to end. And then he's like, wait, was it like, did you court order it? Like I could tell he was doing that because the jury had asked those questions. So I thought that was really like,
Like
thought
he's
he was-
listening to you.
Yes, like
That's
he was
cool.
really paying attention to what we were wanting from this. So I liked that. So then after Michael Harris finishes, they recall Dan Martinez and
He confirms, yes, I did.
he's like,
because-
I gave it to him. I don't know what you want from
Yeah.
me.
I thought that was a really strange tactic. I don't know why the
It was
defense
weird.
attorney didn't object to that being cumulative because he literally
might
just
have,
said
you
the
don't
same
know.
thing over again.
might have-
It seemed really weird.
They might have approached on that, and you don't know what it was. But I guess the defendant had put it in question by saying, no, I never got it.
Right, but they already said that he did.
So it's a he said, she
Yeah, and
said.
it was like,
Anyway.
do you really think he'd perjure himself to do this? And like, would you perjure yourself?
Would you?
For this? Me personally, no.
So I have another question
Yeah.
on specifically the criminal defendant. He was asked a question about why are you being so careful in answering my questions? The prosecutor asked, why are you being so careful?
Oh yes.
And then he said, what?
He said, because you're trying to put me in jail. And then we immediately went to a recess.
Okay. You picked up. Did that set off anything for you when he said that?
No. I mean, in this instance, I was just like, yeah, I mean, they are
That makes
trying to put
sense.
him into jail.
So
Yeah, like that's what they're trying to do.
That's what we're here for.
So the judge took a big exception to that because the jury's job is just to find the facts and not deal out the punishment. She deals out the punishment. So she thought that the fact that you guys heard that there might be some punishment could sway you. But I would just think that the jury knows, hey, this guy, we're not just doing this so he
Yeah.
pays her money.
We're
Like,
just over here playing tiddlywinks. No big deal.
And we knew that he had been in custody
how'd you know that?
because they talked about it, how he had been because of the EPO, he'd been
arrested.
arrested.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell you a fact that you don't know, and I'm curious if it changes your opinion on this stuff.
Okay.
So you're right. The EPO, he got in custody. Well, he'd initially been arrested on the email.
Oh yeah, maybe
and
they
then
did
got
say
out on
that.
bond.
'Kay.
And then was arrested because he mailed that letter.
Okay.
And so the two charges stem from separate times. And he was actually out and then he got put back in. Does knowing that he had already been arrested on one, gets out, mails the letter, does that change anything for you?
Not really.
Still the same way you fall? Okay.
I mean, yeah, like he doesn't have all of his marbles.
Did you
together a little
know?
bit.
Did you know that he was in custody at the time of trial too?
I don't think I did.
Okay, they do a good job
They
of
do
that.
a
That's
good
that's,
job,
that's what
yeah.
they're supposed to do. But when you guys leave, he has to go into a special room.
Yeah, because
He's not out just free.
his
like,
liberty has been taken.
yeah. But they make him dress completely normal. He's wearing a suit, and you can't really tell. But we just see that and are like, well, we got some people out of custody that are accused of much worse crimes.
Yeah.
Of shooting other people, and this guy,
Justifiable homicide.
this guy is
Sends an email. Yeah.
sends email letters, threatening whatever, but he's cannot be out on his own.
Okay, so all that, you get back in the jury room.
Well, so then they recall Rachel Tigert too, and her testimony isn't as consistent. I don't know if I picked up on as much as the jury did. The rest of the jurors, they're like, well, yeah, I mean, her testimony was pretty inconsistent between the two. And what
even
she's
between her
saying.
testifying.
Yeah, the first time and
Previously?
the second
Okay.
time.
Okay.
And like a lot of things that they had, that the jurors also said is like, if she's so afraid, why would she just send a cease and desist? Like in the beginning, like why would that be her first act if she's so afraid of her life? Like why would that make a difference?
Sure.
Anyway, so then we do long jury instructions. They do their closing, and then we all get into the room. And another bad thing that they did is they were like, okay, on Thursday, the judge is like, hey, I have another case at court, document stuff. I had to do a bunch of stuff in the morning. Would you guys be okay if we started at 11 and you don't take a lunch and just like eat a really big brunch? So we all come in, and then they come out and they're like, hey, we're going to buy you lunch. So like, is there anything that you don't like? They do all this stuff. So now everyone in the jury is like, sweet, we get to eat lunch. This is so cool. Good, because I didn't even really eat a breakfast. I brought a lunch, but I'm not even going to eat it. So then it's not till, so that's like at 11 that they're telling us that I didn't eat lunch. And then I was like, I won't even need to eat my lunch because of this. And then we didn't get into the room until 4. And that was a lot. Like, man, those jury, they were not super happy.
Wasted time.
Yeah, they were
wasting
very
my time.
hangry, I would say.
Government is inefficient? What? Crazy.
Let's ask, before we get into your deliberations, what does the jury think of the people that they see watching? Did they discuss...
Specifically.
Not
Oh,
just,
yes. You guys, they...
We came and watched 2 days, and
Yes.
Justin had his tattoo showing
Yes.
on the last day. So
The first day, they were like, oh, like, I think they're part of this. Like, there's something going on there. These guys there. And I'm like, oh, no, those are my friends. It's fine. They're just attorneys. It's fine. And then the next day, they came up to other people, and they're like, okay, first, because my husband was there. So they're like, is that your husband? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, okay, are the 2 guys next to him cops?
Ooh.
And I was like, no.
No,
Sorry,
specifically,
just
we
wait 1
feel
second.
You shouldn't speak to them.
Yeah, hold on. It gets a little offensive for you. So they're like, yeah, because they're like, because for sure, the one guy, the other guy's a little small to be a cop, I think.
small.
Who's small?
I'm 6'1".
But they felt like you had the presence of a cop,
Right.
and he did
The
not.
situational
but
awareness
potentially,
kinda thing, yeah.
they probably are both cops. I know.
I get that a lot. You're Will Ferrell and I'm Marky Mark.
Dude, but Will Ferrell's got the history, though. You remember the other guys?
He's pimping. I know.
Yeah, he had a history.
Gator don't play no shit.
Okay, so that's what they felt about. Is that the extent of what they felt about us?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I just thought it was funny though because they were like so.
That's hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
That's
these
hilarious.
cops are
People,
here.
yeah, why are they here?
Did
What's
they
going on?
feel any way about Ashley Sisolak?
The gal that was sitting that we were talking to.
I think a lot of us just thought she was related in somehow.
Okay.
But it was weird that she wasn't with his mom, but it was like, oh, but if it's the daughter, because they brought up a daughter in the court case. And so it's like, but if they're still a little at ends, maybe that's not why they're not there.
Okay.
Okay. And then
so-
there's victim's dad. I don't know if you could tell. They look just like each
No,
other.
He was sitting next to Ashley.
Okay. I was wondering because she had left and he was still there. And so I didn't know.
Okay, and
who he
he's
was.
her partner in the
Yeah,
law firm,
Sloan or whatever.
And then victim's husband was in the back row.
Yeah.
wearing
Oh, okay.
real colorful shirts. Did anybody say anything about them? Just about us.
Just us weirdos.
Yeah.
Just us. All right.
They just
Okay.
were really concerned.
Not a cop.
Not a cop. Definitely don't talk to him. All right. So you're in the jury room.
Yeah.
What were some of the things that they keyed on? Like what were the takeaways? What drove their decisions?
So we're talking, I kind of wrote down some of the things after the court case because I knew this was happening. Also, I told some of the people that I was going to come and talk on this, and they were like, oh, if they want one else, I can do it too. And I'm like, ew, stop trying to steal my limelight. Shut up.
Do not bogart my attention.
Come
she
talk to
says.
the cops.
Yeah, the cops, the guys you didn't like because you said that they were looking at everybody weird.
We're just here to watch.
Oh yeah, because
We're
one
here
of
to
them
have
was
fun.
like, "Oh, like I made eye contact with Shane." They're like, "Oh, I made eye contact with him. And I didn't know if I should."
And I could tell
so
that he didn't have a soul. I was so
said-
scared of the small one.
I sent mind thoughts and you must convict. Oh, must convict. Or the Monsters Inc. He controlled me with his mind rays.
He made me come to church with him.
We're just there to watch. It's a public setting. The
Yep.
Sixth
Yep.
Amendment confirms
And-
speedy and public trial.
And it's good for me to learn.
Yeah, it was great to watch for us. We loved being there and
I
watching that.
have a lot of positives and negatives of both attorneys. Like I things I didn't like, things that I thought didn't work. But I've also got the benefit of not being on the hot seat. I
Yeah.
can see that. I can see that. I can see that. I can see everything. So there was a lot of stuff that like it helps refine it. You know.
Yeah.
Those emails speak for themselves. So I mean, those are just
Should have taken a deal.
that's the biggest piece of evidence right there. is-
Well, and so we came in and I may or may not be a little bit like, all right, I'll write on the board, or like someone wanted to write on the
oh,
board.
you try to take the
And-
lead.
Well, because they asked who wanted to be foreperson, and they were all like, Joe, like I can do it if you want me to.
If anybody needs someone who's not afraid to speak and constantly say things,
Nobody else wants to.
it's fine, whatever. But like one of the other,
Look at
because
me.
they were kind of pointing to someone else to do it.
The
and
old white guy.
wait. I need you to. I'm you. Point real quick. And this is what you did. You're like, put your hand up and point. This is you. You're like, oh, right. Oh, me? Crazy.
And he, whoa, hey there.
do it. It's fine.
Is there a second? Excellent.
But you weren't the foreperson.
I was not. So the lady that had done like the
Heartbroken.
chair, she wanted to be, and I was like, it's fine if you want to do it, because I knew that because she owns her own oil company and has like done it, so she's the chairperson of the board. She's owned that, so I figured she would be good at taking control of that. She wasn't as good as I thought she would be.
Ooh,
but it's
wow. Hope she doesn't watch this.
I don't think she will.
Probably not. All 12 of our viewers.
I'm not sure if it's the 12 that I was also with, you know.
Probably not.
No. No intersection.
So one of the guys was like, "I'll write," and then I just like got up and I was like, "Oh, let me do this." I did handwriting in college, like I can write this better.
Your penmanship is good.
So I wrote up so we did count 1 and we read through the thing. So aggravated stalking, and not guilty, and then count 2, guilty or not guilty, and we put it up. And so I think it was like 4 people were saying aggravated stalking, and 8
8 were saying no.
not went to stalking. No one said not guilty. And then we started on count 2 about violating the EPO, and we kind of had 4 say guilty. Some people said not guilty, or they were kind of like, I don't know, I need to talk about that more. I'm not really sure. I need to go through that. So the lady was like, let's just go through this. So we read this aggravated stalking definition from the jury instructions. We talked about like, oh, was it a reasonable fear? Would you guys have been afraid? And we talked a lot about him. Like, he obviously speaks educated. But he can't recall back to direct quotes. And they had talked about, like, he referenced people in one of his emails. He referenced people he knew in Vegas. So some of the jurors were like, well, yeah, maybe she was afraid that he would talk to someone he already knew, and that's who would come and attack her. And so the jurors kind of are creating this whole scenario in their mind.
So making facts up that weren't part. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part about juries.
But then we're talking about, well, he doesn't have any priors in violence. They didn't bring anything up. The ex-wife wasn't called to the stand. Like, if he was a violent person, they probably would have called the ex-wife, because this is his 3rd ex-wife, but he had been married to her for 30 years.
Okay.
So if she had something to say,
She would have seen it.
she would have seen it.
Yeah.
And so, so kind of talked about that. And then, sorry, going through all these. And then, because I was trying to write down and think through it all and then remember it all coming back. Sorry. So then just we're thinking, like, how is he not able to sober up? And if we reread the cease and desist email, like, but it's very professional. It's not fearful. But then they're like, well, you know, if someone was trying to make me afraid, would I actually show it, or would I do something else? So like everyone's kind of going into their own feelings. And then the TPO moving to the EPO, like, why would they extend it?
Did anybody fight? Did anybody argue
Of what?
In the
in the
jury?
jury? Like, get at each other?
No, everyone was very cordial. It was very nice. And that's something I had talked later to the defense attorney about, that his goal in some ways was to let us talk as much as possible. He wanted to go up to the bar. He wanted us to have a lot of communication so that we were more connected, so that we would have a better jury trial. And I think it worked, because I felt like I knew a lot of the people. Like, one of my good friends recently had talked about how she doesn't eat lunch with her like coworkers because she doesn't want to be overwhelming. So that's why I never ate lunch with them, because I'm like, I already have like 10-minute recesses all day. Like, they don't need more. Like, they don't need a full hour. But like, they had eaten lunch together. We knew all these things about each other. Like, I'm always trying to get to know them more and everything like that. And so so I feel like everyone got along quite well.
It's good.
People were willing to share their opinions and everything like that. Like, I definitely think this is aggravated. Like, I think it's aggravated because she was scared out of her mind. But then kind of our biggest problem, and then like they were like, but there's not many misspellings in the emails. There's like one or two. And they're like, if he's that drunk, there would be a lot more misspellings. It's like
autocorrect.
one of
You
those-
speak in slur, and then you type in slur.
Autocorrect.
So that was another thing that they were like a little bit, and then
A
they're
big
trying
part.
to figure out, like, where's the BS coming from? Is it Michael or is it Rachel? Like, who's telling more of that?
Something smelled though.
Yeah.
But the emails are plain.
Yeah.
Like, you can't.
Yeah, it is what it is. And he never admitted that he didn't do it, or he never said he didn't do it. He's like, yeah, I sent them.
And there's
Yeah.
some level of threat in there. I guess if it's minor or major was kind of the difference, and what she perceived
Yeah.
is a huge factor. So you have 4 who wanted the aggravated
Mm-hmm.
stalking, 8 that didn't. Did the 4 just kind of relent and say, yeah, okay, since you guys all think it's just regular stalking, we're okay, good.
Kind of. So we get to our biggest problem. It's getting late. We're getting irritated because people are so adamant for the aggravated. Well, so then at this point, we're kind of getting all irritated. One of the girls is like, let's just go home. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. They're not going to change their opinions. I'm not changing mine. I will not go at him for aggravated.
Okay.
Because she had been beat by her husband and put her husband in jail for it. Like, her ex-husband at this point.
Yeah.
So she's like, this isn't aggravated. I know what aggravated
He
is.
didn't put hands on her. Yeah.
And so it's like, if it wasn't more than just emails, so we're just all going back and forth. So then it's like, okay, let's just do, because the marshal's coming back and she's like, how's it going? What percentage? And so we're like, let's just go. And I think we kind of figure out the EPO. Let's go through that really quick. So then we do our vote on the EPO. We kind of all decide,
Yes.
he sent it. Like,
That's a
what can we
violation.
do?
Yeah.
Like, if it had been to the lawyer's office, if it had been to the ex-wife, anything else would be something different. We all agree that he got it. Like, he lied. He definitely got the thing. Whether he read it or not,
That's
not
on
our
him.
problem,
That's
right?
on him.
Right. You got served.
Exactly. And so that he's in it. So we're all decide, yep, that's going to be, he's guilty for that. So then we're like, okay, well, we just don't know. What's the difference between aggravated stalking and stalking? So we send up a question to the judge. What's the definition of stalking? Brings back, sorry, can't help you. Look it through the jury instructions.
You guys hadn't looked through the jury instructions
We
before
had,
then?
we thought
But-
we thought we had looked through the aggravated stalking and all of that stuff, but we just felt like we don't know
It wasn't
what's
enough.
going on. Yeah, like, what is the difference here? So then we send up another question. What does aggravated mean? Because really, if you read through the jury instructions, it really didn't say
What aggravated
what
meant.
aggravated stalking was versus stalking. Like, there was no clear
That's weird
definition.
since they had two
That's
separate
like
charges.
a huge distinction of defining
Yes,
the
and
crime.
and that was our biggest
Wow.
issue, is like, we just don't know. And so then when we finally kind of went back and reread some of the parts in the jury instructions, it basically said, if you cannot all decide it's aggravated stalking, then you must go down to stalking.
Okay.
And so
Boom.
we went through, we talked about it all, like, is everyone okay with that? And 2 of the jurors who were really on aggravated stalking just shut down.
And they were like, good, okay, I
Whatever.
want to get out.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm fine. And like there's
That
a whole like
happens.
inner flu, like I'm fine. I'm fine. Well, when women say they're fine, they're not fine. And she's like, if I'm talking to a woman, I'm saying I'm fine. I'm fine. You're like, okay.
Ooh, so there was a little.
It got a little bit heated on that part. And
were
like,
8 o'clock at night on a Friday, though, right?
Yes.
And they hadn't eaten.
yeah, well, we had eaten at this point. They brought food in.
Oh,
and we were
dinner?
eating during, like
Okay.
they had brought Jason's deli. So we were all eating. But so then my buddy Juan, he was not happy. And he's like, what can I do? I can't do anything about it. So
He wanted to get aggravated.
he wanted
right?
to get aggravated
Okay.
because he felt like she was scared out of her mind.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
And so,
But
so
is
he
it
felt
reasonable?
stressed.
It's
Well,
reasonable.
that's the point, though.
Yeah.
It's for the jurors to decide, and Juan had made up his mind. He
Yeah.
felt with his...
Stand by your convictions. You know?
Yeah. And so we just finally decided, sure, this is good. We sent it up, and then no one was at the courthouse. So they had to call everyone back and do all that. So that took, like, we were all up, like, ready to go. We're like, yeah. And then by the time they had called us back, everyone had sat back down. We're all just sitting there talking about other things. And so then they called us in. We gave our verdict. They asked if we wanted to poll the jury. We polled everyone. Everyone said yes. Went back, talked to the judge. She came back and talked to us for a little bit, and that was pretty cool. She was talking about how when she was a prosecutor, she never would have let the defendant be up on the stand so long. She's like, I would have asked him a couple questions and got him off.
Yeah. No, he was up there because he could connect with people potentially.
Yep.
Well, and she was just saying, like,
But
yeah,
he
it's
didn't.
like her side. Yeah. But
He
to her
didn't,
side,
but-
she's like, I would have had him out
Yeah.
like faster.
They-
And she goes, you can tell they didn't do a good job because you guys left with so many questions. Like if they had
True.
done a better job at their job, you would have known what aggravated versus stalking meant within the case. And so that was interesting. And then we could go and talk to the attorneys. So I talked to them and I was like, I didn't like you. He's like,
You
"Thanks
told
for your
Austin
feedback."
that?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Like, you really made me super uncomfortable. He's like, oh, thanks for your feedback. And then,
No, but that's a
They
great
got the
learning
job
tool.
done, though. Did it matter?
Every single verdict I ever got, whether it be the federal trial, I always asked to talk to the jurors.
Yeah.
What works for you, what didn't, and I always ask them that. I'm like, look, you're not going to offend me. I need to know if I do something that's annoying
Yeah.
or that's off-putting or whatever. Like, you know, you listen to these trials that are famous, like the OJ trial. They talked about the way the gal changed her hair, and then everybody was focused on that because she got a new haircut middle of the trial.
Yeah.
Right? Or like if somebody clicks a pen, and you don't think about these little things that you do.
yeah.
Set something off.
Yeah,
and
it
it
could
could
set
be
some stuff
enough.
off,
I mean,
yeah.
people were close to going one way or the
Yeah,
other.
it could have
there.
been could have changed the day.
Does
you
it
know?
surprise you that the violation of the extended protective order is the felony out of those two?
It was really interesting when they came in and like said that was a felony.
And the other one's a misdemeanor.
Yeah.
So the fact that he sent a letter, that the letter wasn't threatening at all.
not in any.
If you'd known that
way.
was a felony, would you have convicted him on it?
Yeah, I couldn't go against the facts.
There you
Right,
go.
because the facts in
The
the law.
facts was you can't send any, and we had talked about that in any way, in any manner. But when you went through the list, it didn't actually have mail as part of that. It was like social media and all this stuff, so it didn't have
but it's
USD mail.
contact.
But we had decided, well, it's in any way, in any
Yeah.
place. So it's kind of like, how can you argue? You
That
know,
a
like
letter is
like
a-
it's dumb, like it doesn't feel like it could be. But the other jurors were like, well, but what if next time he sent, you know, a horse head or what, you know, like they're just like,
The Godfather or something.
No, it's Native
But
American.
what if it could go worse?
But also in
you
The
don't
Godfather,
know.
he
Yeah,
sends a
that's
horse
where
head.
that's where I was going.
No, next
But-
time it's going to be
Yeah, they're like, what if it
Ted
got
Kaczynski or
worse?
something? Yeah, yeah.
So they're like, you can't like not do it. I'm like, it's true. I mean, you kind of have to go with that one.
Sure.
And so,
Well, we've gone way over time with you, Rachel. Any final thoughts?
no, jury duty was great.
Thanks for your sign.
Super
Thanks
fun.
for making us a new logo because Austin's logo sucks.
What is this you have in a bag?
Oh,
over there?
I made cookies.
Cookies, because our office is close to downtown, so
Yes.
she used our parking for a
Yes.
little bit.
Use your parking, and then you guys hung out with me on my breaks, which was really nice. So then I didn't upset the jurors. I just irritated you guys. Made it easier for me.
Okay.
Not
It passed
poisoned.
the
Not
passed the
poisoned.
feel
Not
and the
poisoned.
smell test.
Yeah. Just let me know.
Yeah.
Good.
Premium.
All right.
These
Well,
are mine.
Okay, sorry. Darn it, not mine. Well, thanks, listeners. If you have any questions, we couldn't get to our
Oh.
listener question today, but we will next time.
Not legal advice. Consult your local attorney.
Thank you.